Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's panel on how AI is changing how we learn, think, and grow. Artificial intelligence is quickly becoming a dynamic force in education. Today's panel brings together an incredible group of thought leaders who are asking questions about the role of AI in teaching and learning and helping to shape the answers. We have with us Charles Lang, the Executive Director of TC's Digital Futures Institute, whose research explores how adaptive educational systems and data-informed strategies can support more effective learning environments. He is joined by Assistant Professor Erik Voss, whose research focuses on how AI tools and information technologies can be effectively utilized for second language instruction and assessment. Finally, Maria Hamdani received a Master's of Science in Learning Analytics from TC in 2021. Her work in AI-driven assessment development is helping to make learning tools more equitable and responsive to real classroom needs. Together, they bring an inspiring blend of research, practice, and vision that will help us all better understand how AI is changing the way we learn, think, and grow. Let's welcome them.
So today we want to spend the afternoon talking about a little thing called artificial intelligence. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. It's causing a little bit of fuss at the moment. And at the Digital Futures Institute, we spend a lot of time struggling with the problem that a lot of the information out there is kind of either saying that it's going to save us or saying that it's going to end the world. And we really need to kind of find the middle way through that. And there's a lot of work in trying to do that, especially around the topic of learning. And it's really hard to figure out what the contours are of what we do and don't know about AI and learning. And today we're very lucky to be joined by these people because they are really at the cutting edge of that work at the intersection of AI and learning. So before, to get started, I think I'm going to ask Erik a deceptively simple question, which is what do we know about what skills and knowledge you need to be able to use AI successfully?
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. That is a deceptively simple question, that's a complex answer. So I think in order to talk about the skills, human skills that we need to work with AI, we need to think about what the AI is that we're talking about. There are different types of artificial intelligence. There's back-end systems. Those are recommendation systems. And they learn from humans with clicks and likes. But there's also the front-end systems. These are the generative AI chatbots that we engage with. And so they also react to human input and human action. And what we found is that the human skills that we need, and I'm not going to say these are the definitive skills, but we found that critical thinking skills and evaluation skills are very important. And when we're using tools, it's very important to have a purpose or why we're using the tool. When we see ChatGPT, it looks friendly, it's helpful, but we see this blank page. And some people have said that it's similar to writer's block. When you see this blank page, you as a human have to come up with what are you going to ask the system? What do you want it to do? And that's where we think about what do you want it to do? What's the purpose of using it? And so not only critical thinking skills, evaluation skills, but also general knowledge. If you're going to ask for assistance with the chatbot, you should have some knowledge of what you want it to do. So similar things that people were doing with the computer vision is asking it to create something in the style of a painter. And in order to do that, you need to be familiar with who the painter is. And then in order to see whether the output looks like the style of that painter, you need to be familiar with the style of that painter and to evaluate to see how well that output is done. And so it's about the purpose, it's about knowledge that's not going away, as well as critical thinking skills and evaluation skills in order to use the tools appropriately.
Interesting. So to see the kind of other side of that. Maria, your experience is at the intersection of curriculum development and assessment and AI. What do you see companies promising with respect to developing learning? And do you find those promises credible or believable, or what are your thoughts there?
A great question. Thank you, Charles. So, it's just so new at the moment in the educational publishing space, in creating content, in creating assessment. And there's these promises out there, with the biggest one being efficiency. When 20 years ago, when we created assessments, it took a very long time to create one math problem, for example. And now you can do it, and you can do it very, very quickly. And that promise of efficiency is there, and I think it is a great tool to be used for efficiency. However, I think that extreme caution must be used as well. And I don't know that people are doing that right now. Especially my subject matter expertise is mathematics, so in creating math assessments in particular, AI makes promise. AI doesn't make the promise, but you know what I mean. Like, the promises are made that we can write these items much faster, and we can, and I do. However, it's not a case where, similar to what Erik said, it's like the blank page where you just say, "Go, give it to me." It doesn't work that way. It's what you input, right? Like one of the biggest things you've taught me in my degree is garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you're not inputting the right information, you're not going to get what you want, and it doesn't always do it right, especially mathematics. It doesn't always get the standards correct. It doesn't even always get the math right. So it is very, very important to double check. It is a machine, it is not a human, and it does not have the nuances that a human being can have. And so I think we just have to be cautious when we use it.
So Erik, I'll throw back to you. Are you also seeing those similar promises, or is it mostly efficiency, or are there things above that the AI is being, people say it can deliver in education?
Mm-hmm. So there are two purposes generally that people try to use technology for, whether that's general educational technology or AI, and that's for efficiency, but also for innovation, to be able to do things that we could not do without it. And I think that this generative AI gives us the ability to include speaking assessments, so that's innovative. But the efficiency is one aspect, and also in the area of language assessment, being able to assess a larger number of test takers at a time, so scaling, that's efficiency as well as some innovation as well. So I think that there are different purposes for using it.
And I'm sorry, one thing I wanted to mention is that it also supports teachers in knowing what, you get feedback in real time. Mm-hmm. Feedback in real time it's a gift. And for students to know what they got wrong, for teachers to know what my students got wrong. But it's only the what, it's not the why. And the why is where the learning is, right? The why is what's really important. So although it has an aspect that is very valuable, it is missing what the most important factor, and that is the why behind it.
So to bounce off that and to go back to the efficiency piece, students can say the same thing. They can say, well, this helps me be more efficient. Is that a good thing?
So I think to try to answer that question, I think it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about the purpose and the ability to evaluate. So I think that as AI continues to evolve and develop, it's going to become very, very powerful and know more about us and about what we want to do and be helpful. Some of the visionaries, Kai-Fu Lee, for example, is envisioning the future of education with every student having an assistant that they can talk with and talk through things and help with some of the issues. And so what we're talking about, the technology now, is going to be different than it will be in 5 years and in 10 years. And so it will evolve.
Okay, so if I'm a student and I'm using AI, but more in a just-in-time type scenario. So I'm using it to learn on the fly. Is this something that we should encourage, or we should not encourage that?
So I would say that, as Erik is saying, it depends on what you're doing, right? What is your purpose? In general, is it a good thing? No, it's not a good thing, right? I mean, I would be lying through my teeth if I said I hadn't done it myself. You know, I need to get this done right now. Let me just ask AI; it'll give it to me. But I'm not learning in that. You know, it was in the previous presentation. George said, you know, we got to let children make their mistakes. We don't let kids make their mistakes, because that's where the learning is happening. And AI doesn't like mistakes, and it doesn't give you mistakes. It only gives you the right answer. So where is the learning that is happening, right? It's not in the right answer. It's in the process.
I don't think it always gives the right answer.
That's true. In math, it doesn't. Definitely. You're right. Yeah. But we think that, especially kids, right?
Yeah.
They probably think that everything that it's telling us is accurate.
True, and that's one of the issues. We don't know always whether it's the right answer or not, and that's where the issue comes. With this computers, everything that we're doing with computers now have been developed by humans, and everyone is looking to anthropomorphize. So now with a voice that sounds human-like voice, it's even more human-like, right? And so we're trying to, when we engage with this generative AI now, and particularly with the spoken mode, we start to imagine that we're speaking with another human and everything that entails, but it's not human, it's still a machine. And so that's one of the issues. I try to make a comparison with my students and writing. When they go to a writing center, what would they ask the tutor to help them with? Could you help me provide feedback on my writing? Could you tell me about my grammar or the coherence? That seems acceptable to what we do now, but would you advise a student to go to the tutoring center and say to the tutor, please write this for me? So that's a different way we engage with the machines. And so it's about engaging with what we would do with humans to some extent, even though they're not humans, we want them to be, and everything that entails.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you a hypothetical tough question. If you had a magic wand and you could say, that no company can make any more machines that imitate humans, would you do that?
You asking me or the...
Both. I think...
No.
No, you wouldn't do it? You would let them do it, or you would...
You know, it's not so much the what that is happening, right? It's how are we controlling it, or how are we using it? How are we teaching it? How are we... Like, I don't think that we should limit what it can do. I think we should teach our students, teach our teachers, so that everybody understands how to use it. It's in the how, it's not in the what, for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be difficult to say, stop going in that direction, and I agree with you that we need to think about how it's done appropriately to support the purpose for what we want it to do. The Artificial Intelligence Conference this year was on social AI and emotional AI, and there were sessions on providing empathetic feedback. And so we do need to look into that. Can you imagine if you were to give feedback to a learner which is just from a machine, which would be different than getting feedback from a human? And if we want it to support the learning and the feedback, then we may need to think about some emotional support in that feedback as well.
From outside the system, or from
the system itself.
So the system is going to, so it's going to become even more human-like.
That's the direction it's going.
Interesting.
That's what I see.
That's what I know you've written about cognitive offloading. On that side of it, do you have concerns about the way that students are developing when they're using the AI?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's different degrees of cognitive offloading, and that's when you ask the AI chatbot to do the entire task for you, as opposed to asking it to give feedback on what you're doing. One of the promising directions I see, and the companies are trying to go this way, is to encourage the learners to ask for assistance as they go through a project and give them guidance and step-by-step and feedback and talk through some of the troubleshooting rather than just complete the task. And so right now there's a lot of work being done in agents, and agents are being designed to do a task. And that is complete cognitive offloading. Do this for me and it gets done. But we need to take a look back to the purpose of what we're asking AI to do and how it can help the human. Even the traditional writing assistants like Grammarly were designed to improve the product itself, not to help humans learn to write better. So they just give feedback on the product. And so we need to think of ways to improve these tools, to give feedback, to show how to improve, how to help humans learn how to write.
Do you think if the agents, and this is a question for either, if that agent direction keeps going, does that change the purpose of what learning, the role that learning has in society now, if there are these agents that can take so much of the cognitive load off us? Do we have to rethink about how we think of learning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, everything has to be redefined now. And this happens, right? It happens all the time throughout history. And we shouldn't be doing things the way we did them 50 years ago. And sometimes we still do. I mean, assessments. We still have multiple choice assessments. What the heck is that? So, you know, it is time to evolve. And in one way, I mean, it's not perfect, and I'm not saying that I'm like, woohoo, AI. I'm not. Kind of, but I'm not. But the thing is, it can do something. So for example, Dr. Edmund Gordon, our TESOL's own Dr. Edmund Gordon, he wrote a paper called Towards Assessment in the Service of Learning. So this was back in 2020. This was before this whole AI thing. And what does that mean? That means, why are we still assessing kids where we're just giving them a test, A, B, C, D, they do it, they turn it in. What are they actually learning in that? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm not saying it doesn't serve a purpose, it does, but the child is not learning, the student is not learning. Now we get to evolve assessments because we have to. And what does that mean? You know, Dr. Gordon has this philosophy, I believe he calls it dynamic pedagogy, which means learning is happening at the intersection of assessment, of teaching, and of reflection. AI can only do so much of that. The reflection piece is a human piece, and it is necessary. So yes, we need to adapt, and we need to, I think, we do need to shift the way we teach, the way we view education, the way we teach education, the way kids are learning it. We can't ignore it, it's here. So how do we very quickly make that shift?
There's work being done right now on dynamic assessment and through mediation, so I agree with you that it's helping the human, the test taker, the learner, to think through the process and through self-discovery and through reflection to work through, rather than just the standardized testing that we're familiar with.
That's great.
Is there is there a world where you are learning only because you want to learn something? That all the other things are now taken care of by machines? And so really, self-directed learning is the only relevant learning, and if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And what does that mean for an institution like this that is built around the idea that we need to help people to learn?
You're saying that AI can do most things?
If it can do cognitive things, let's say, but if it can do things that we have traditionally tested with test assessments or essays, and that it changes work in some revolutionary way, which means we all get a universal basic income, and learning becomes this thing that is really the economics, I guess, is taken out of it.
That's a loaded question, Charles.
Is that a better world?
We didn't preview this question. Yeah, that's a big question, because we're taking a look at relying on non-human system to do a lot of things that we would rely on. We may be going that direction, but I don't think that we need to go that direction or that we have to go that direction. And as we're moving forward and as artificial intelligence is developing, that we are going to be changing the way that we use it and thinking about how we engage with it. And I think that we're all using our phones quite a bit, and so I think that this is going to be similar, where our phones are going to be more AI companions. And so we will be talking with them and getting advice from them and helping them. And that's where the issue is. It's depending on each person and how they use it and what they want to get out of it. So I can't answer that everyone will be doing the same thing.
I also think if there was a world like that you're describing, one big key thing that would be missing is problem-solving skills. AI cannot teach us problem-solving skills. And it's again, as George said, the mistakes. You've got to make mistakes in life in order to learn. And AI doesn't let you do that. So shoot, the mistakes I've made, I could be a genius. But seriously, it's like if AI is not allowing you to do it, then how can a society function without people making mistakes? There's value in the struggle, and we need to struggle.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that with the AI tools that we're developing, it does allow humans to make mistakes and try again and try some other things. And one area of research is looking at reducing anxiety for language learning, because it's a more safe space to interact with an agent, with a conversational agent, to practice speaking. And so you become more comfortable in speaking with the spoken dialogue system, for example. The question is then, how does that generalize to actually speaking with a human in real life? But it is a safer space to practice language skills, and so to make mistakes. So that's a good direction.
Okay, so going in a slightly different direction, Maria, you've done a lot of work on culturally responsive teaching and pedagogy. What are the dangers that you see in the advent of this new technology? Like, can this help us avoid mistakes we've made in the past, or are there new problems that it's producing?
Yes and yes. So yes, it can help us. I've used it for a lot of culturally responsive assessment development, but it doesn't have the answers. It's not, again, who is feeding the data into this thing? Are they people of authentic cultures that are feeding it in, or are they not? I mean, am I going to write an item about indigenous people? Do I know what I'm saying? Do I know what I'm doing? Maybe I've read it, but it's not my authentic culture. So there is a big danger in using AI to create culturally responsive content in my world assessment, and that is that it does tend to, AI can help be a window into different cultures, and it can also, just as fast, perpetuate bias and perpetuate negative stereotypes. And it does both. It does both. So again, it's a matter of, okay, if I'm going to use this thing to help me, the first thing I have to know is what to input in. So when we create a culturally responsive assessments, for example, the first step we do is do a brainstorming session with kids of different backgrounds. We ask them what's important to them. We then put that information into AI. I had a student, an 8th grade student, that said to me, I said, tell me something that you wish, he was an African American student, and I said, tell me something that you wish people knew about your culture, or a misconception that people have. And he said, and I don't know why it blew me away, but it was so simple. And he said, I'm really sick and tired of people thinking that black fathers are absent all the time. They're not. Mine's not. He's around. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. And I put that in ChatGPT. That's not something ChatGPT is going to give me. If I ask ChatGPT, give me a misconception, it's not going to tell me that. So it does have its limitations, but when I put the context in and said, give me an 8th grade math item that has to do with Pythagorean's theorem that talks about a black father and son doing something, at first it gave me a basketball example. I was like, no, not a basketball example. You know, so it does perpetuate the stereotypes. And then I said, but you can tell it that too. Nope. That's kind of racist. And sometimes I say it, I'm like, that's kind of racist. Give me something else. And so, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to be. And then it gives me something else. And it gave me this wonderful thing about planting vegetables in a community garden. And it hit on several different things of cultural responsiveness. It was fantastic. So it can be wonderful, and it can also perpetuate stereotypes.
Are you seeing similar patterns in the language, navigating languages across cultures?
This is an issue with language assessment, yes, and it often comes up with different types of language learners, even heritage language learners who learn language different than the traditional language learners. So we need to be aware of the different test takers, as well as the way that if we're using large language models, the bias that's inherent in the models. But bias has also been part of what we look at for language assessment quite a bit as well. When we're working with traditional language assessment, we have a human as the rater. And we have rater training and rater calibration, and there are still some human issues that work through just to calibrate with humans as well.
Do we have good measure of those biases in the systems, or it's mostly anecdotal?
We have measures of bias in the systems as well as we do in humans.
Okay. Very good.
I think you can't take the human element out of all of this. It's the key.
Yeah. Speaking of that human versus machine element, this is kind of the first time that we're seeing like another learning organism, I'll come up with a different word, but organism out there, something that can compete with us in terms of learning things. Has that changed at all your approach to how you think about learning?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it has, and it should. And I think everybody now really gets to shift their perspective on how to learn and what it means to learn, and to do it, you know, with a little bit of fear, but not this fear of, as you said in the beginning, people are like, oh God, the world's going to end. Nobody's going to be smart, and everybody's going to be stupid, and everybody's just going to. No, we get to, you know, this is Teachers College, Columbia University. This is where it's happening. So teach it, right? We teach it.
I think through looking at training models and training systems, you really start to see some differences between the way that the computers learn, machine learning, and the way the humans learn. And so by going through this, it really highlights these differences. So for machine learning, it's very heavily reliant on pattern recognition. And so you can show a computer a large amount of data, it can learn those patterns, but that's all it can do. So it's just remembering what it's learned and generalizing only to an extent, whereas human cognition and human learning is quite different.
I'll allow myself one anecdote, which is that we've interviewed engineers and data scientists on talking about their models. And we've interviewed teachers and talking about students. And shockingly, the engineers have such a sense of empathy for their model and that it's growing, and that whereas the teachers have a much more bureaucratic kind of, and sometimes clinical approach to how they are talking about how learning happens for their students. And, you know, it's not the individual's fault, of course, it's a system, but it's just, yeah, a very stark and interesting difference between those two groups at the moment. I'm sure if engineers had to deal with the Department of Education and et cetera, and the federal government, that they would also speak differently, but yeah.
So one area I'm working on right now is explainable AI, which is under the umbrella of responsible AI, and thinking about how these models make decisions, and similarly to the bias that's inherent in them. And there are different approaches that we take to try to see what's happening through this decision-making or prediction process. And you can think about prior to this black box, what's the data that's going in, garbage out, or what are the features, what are the humans telling it goes in that's important, so it's related to the construct. And then on the other side, you have an output, and then we try to do some analysis to see whether that aligns with what humans would have done or what the output should be. And then there's the third part where we actually look at the structure of the architecture. And there's the differences between the traditional rule-based, the deep learning, and then the large language models. And all three of them are different, and they behave differently. So we're still trying to figure out to help humans understand how these machines make the important decisions that they do.
So we'll do one more before we take some audience questions. But do you think that the term intelligence, the meaning of that, is going to be changed over the next decade?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what it's going to be, but it's going to change. It has to shift. If learning is shifting, and the way we're learning is shifting, and the way we're learning it, teaching is shifting, then obviously the definition of what makes somebody intelligent will also shift.
Mm-hmm. Terms, concepts, ideas change. Right? Even AI right now, when we use AI, that's generally thought about chatbots and generative AI, when it's actually a wide range of different techniques. And the term intelligent was actually debated in the beginning, but I think that it will change.
I think as well too, I think it is, it's dependent on what we value. It's what are the values that we have for the word intelligent. Those values will shift, and therefore the definition of intelligence will shift.
Okay. So I think we're going to take a few questions from the audience. Thank you very much. So the first one is, how can educators and designers preserve that sense of wonder and intellectual struggle that makes learning so powerful, even as AI becomes more embedded in our lives?
I think it's a great question. And it's a matter of, again, what I just said, right? What are we valuing? And if we're going to value the process of learning, then we need to be very mindful and purposeful about that process, what it looks like, perhaps across the board, overarching, or in the different subjects as well. And we get to shift, and we get to work with AI. We can't ignore it, and we can't, I think I saw TikTok yesterday about this teacher that was just screaming at his students, screaming and yelling, and if you're using AI, and I thought, my instantaneous reaction was, what is he doing? We have to shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think technology does not have a philosophy of learning or teaching. It's the developers and the users that do, and so I think we need to continue to think about how we can work collaboratively with the systems.
Definitely. I think it's the collaboration. I would say that people come conveniently with an inbuilt sense of wonder. It comes with the hardware. So really, it's about how do we not step on that with a machine, with AI. Okay. So the next one is, what would it take to ensure that AI tools help expand opportunity, especially for communities that are underserved by education technology, rather than deepen those existing divides? I think, Maria, that might.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it does help a little bit. I don't know to what degree, but it now opens up knowledge to communities or children that may not necessarily have had that before. And so that is a wonderful thing. But again, even though it's opening up that knowledge to them, is somebody supporting them in learning how to use that knowledge, right? Because I'll say it a million times, the learning is happening in the struggle, the learning is happening in the process. It's not about getting that right answer, so we'll still need people to teach them.
I agree. I think it's going to be a very powerful tool to help many people, but there are two issues that we need to work on. That's access, and that's literacy, knowing how to use the tools. If those two are supported, I think that's going to make a larger impact.
I disagree. No, just kidding. I would say definitely, just to put a slight spin on it, is that we don't know what the long-term effects of this are on students' learning. So, there's a world where having a lot of exposure to this technology is not good. And if that is the case, then access is less of an issue. In that case, maybe preventing access is necessary, because it will be too convenient and too cheap to deploy this at scale for a lot of underserved students. We don't exactly know.
No, I do agree with you, and that's why I said access and literacy, to know how to use that, but also to know when not to use AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important as well. Yeah. And knowing really understanding what its limitations are. There seems to be this idea out there that it can do everything and anything, and it can't.
Okay, so one more. What kind of human-AI relationship do you see or hope to see in 10 or 20 years from now? One that truly helps us learn, teach, and grow.
Yeah, I do think that we're going to be seeing more collaboration with personalized AI assistants. They are learning more and more about us. Even these commercial products that we're using are learning more about our files and what we input and about our preferences. Even the big companies, this is not new. This has been going on for a long time, even with your phones. It's been collecting your preferences and your data. And so it's going to be more personalized. And the question is, how can we use that to benefit us, to help us?
Yeah, I also think that for students that are able to have this tool, it is something that. Gosh, I've completely lost my train of thought. Like that fast.
Yeah.
A good one. A good one.
It was a good one too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yes.
Let me jump in one more thing, because, and then I'll give you some time to think about that. So, I think some of these technologies may be very disruptive to some of the things we do, like assessment. So, with a personalized assistant that tracks everything we do, sees everything we read, and it hears everything we say, we hear, it can be used as a personal assistant to ask how much Spanish have I heard in the last day or week, or how much have I spoken, or could prompt with a certain vocabulary that you're learning to help through the prompting for learning a language. So there's some benefits to having a personalized system.
Definitely. I think it's super interesting, and I don't know if the person who asked this question is here, but that they use the word relationship. What's the relationship between humans and AI? I would say with respect to social media, we have a bad relationship. Social media is a bad boyfriend. And I would hope that we don't end up in that relationship in 10 years, because it's not great. And I think there are certainly companies who would love for us to end up in that relationship, because an addicted customer is a good customer. So in 10 years, I would hope that we have figured out how to incorporate what works into educational systems, but not in a way that is going to get us to the same place that we're in now with our phones. Did you remember anything?
I did not.
You did not. It did not. Okay.
Old age.
The next question I have here is just, what is wrong with AI? Which, yeah.
You take that two different ways.
Exactly. What is wrong with it? Nothing. Or yes, everything. Which is kind of full circle to the start, right? Like, there really are these two camps out in the world, and I think the role of institutions like TC is to find that middle way. Like, there's not nothing here. Talk to anyone who assigns essays, any teacher that assigns essays in their class. This has messed things up for them. So it's not nothing, but it's probably not everything, right? So we need to figure out what that middle is. At the moment, there's just not enough people in that middle.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot wrong with it at the moment, but I wouldn't say that it's the AI tool that is growing and learning. It's a tool. And I think what's wrong with it is the way that society is using it, the way that kids are using it, the way that people are fearing it, teachers are fearing it. And fearing anything is not good. Anything that's going to come from fear, you're just going to perpetuate that. So you got to tackle that. You got to tackle that, whatever that is, and to do it collaboratively, as both these gentlemen have said.
Yeah. I think that's the main research question in most of the research we've been doing in the last 5 years.
What's wrong with it?
What is wrong with it? Yeah. Is that part of the issue, though? Is the research community too focused on trying to find a problem and not necessarily finding solutions?
I think it's part of the development and improvement part of it. So what's wrong with it so we can improve it and make it better. And I've seen even the commercial systems, they trying to shift and do things differently that they found are not working for its users to improve it, for better or worse.
Yeah. And I think as well, too, the publishing companies that are creating all of the content for schools and states, they are so eager to use AI. And it's, when I'm writing for these companies, it's like, well, can you use AI? Can you use AI? And in my mind, I'm like, do you even know what you're asking of me? And they think that, if I've used it, I must be a complete expert on it. Who is an expert right now? I don't know any. Maybe you're an expert.
Two. There's two right here, actually.
You guys are experts.
So just before we finish up, I'd like to give you the opportunity to say something about AI to either learners or teachers or parents or technologists, people who are developing technology, that you think is very important for them to hear about AI and learning.
I think what I would say to all of those stakeholders is what I started off with, is to think about the purpose for using it and when not to use it, or when to use it appropriately, and think about being able to ask it for a specific purpose and to be able to evaluate the output. And so by thinking through that, why we're using it and how we're using it, I think that we can learn to use it more efficiently and for better purposes.
Yeah, and I would probably say the same thing that I've repeated today, and which is AI is a tool. It's just a tool. It's not the end-all, be-all, and we don't want it to be the end-all, be-all, right? I mean, Teachers College exists for a reason, and it will continue to exist. And it will take AI and use it as a tool for teachers, for parents, for kids. There's nothing wrong with it if we use it the right way and understand the values. Maybe we need to, isn't that how we start out with any new concept, is what is the mission, what is the vision, what are the values? Once we establish that, then we have a path to go on.
Thank you so much. The last thing that I would say is that I think you should all go and use it, but then go talk to someone in person about how you used it. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.